That's tough sometimes when there's an expectation on me to show up.
You mean I can be demanding?
There are some times, babe.
And I can say, oh, you need to drop everything. I need you to do this for me right now. Hey guys, it's Mindi Linscombe here, your host to the Something New show, where we like to learn how to live a life worth celebrating. And today, I have a special guest. This is my very own husband of almost 20 years. This is Jordan Linscombe. Hello.
Hey, babe. Great to be with you.
Thank you. Normally he's behind camera and helping us with editing, but today I asked him to come in front of the camera, and we thought we'd be cute and wear a matching Something New Resources hoodie. So I know it's a little cheesy, but we're excited about this company that we started together, Something New Resources, and it's a lot of things. It's our show, it's our coaching business, a foundation that we give back to. It's a lot of different things in the resource realm. So I thought it would be interesting because I get asked a lot, and I see you get asked a lot. Mm-hmm. What is it like being married to such a strong leader in a female, in a wife, where a lot of times I think in our society we have CEOs and all this stuff is the husband, and then the wife is really supporting the husband. And we have kind of the reverse scenario where we will own our companies together. However, I'm definitely the more visionary, a little bit louder, stronger, sometimes a leader here. So what is it like being married to me, babe? And not just that, but you know, in this reversal in maybe what society would say is a traditional setup.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, it's an adventure for sure. Every day, every week. Be sure to check out the team episode where, you know, our management team was here and talking about there's always a new idea and vision or things that we're doing in our company. But in a marriage context, we've always looked at it as it's not 50-50 for us. It's 100-100. And that's a fundamental idea of how we look to co-lead our family, lean into life together. But I think with that, it's just a recognition of God's given you an amazing strength of vision, ideas, immediate implementation, which not many people do. But on the other hand, he's given me gifts of operations, attention to detail, and we're just so thankful because those complement each other extremely well. And so, you know, in our earlier years, I think we wrestled through some of that, like what does this look like? How do we balance identity, perspective, things of ourselves in marriage? But we've gotten in a really great flow where I think we feel confident in who God made us to be, the way we can both help lead our companies, lead our family. So it's different, but I love it. And the more you win, the more we win is how I look at it, you know, in our marriage and our companies, et cetera.
Did you ever deal with like, you know, the struggle of, oh, the focus is definitely a little bit more hers than mine. And do you feel now settled with that? Or where did that, when did it change?
Yeah, I think last, 6 to 8 years, it's gotten to an even better, stronger place. There's still moments, we're just right off an incredible weekend. We had a full-blown fashion show, 15-year anniversary event for our company. You saw that entire thing in your mind, 120 days out, 365 days out, of what we needed to have happen for that event. And it's a beautiful thing. But yeah, straight up, honestly, there's even moments in all of that where I have to remind myself, like, okay, what is each of our part to pull off this amazing end product, this end goal experience, to serve our customers well, to serve our team well, to include our family in the middle of all of that. And so there's moments where it's like, okay, how do I bring my strengths and bring my best to this? And at the same time, be mindful of those beautiful kind of public celebration moments we have together. And then there's other moments where it's very behind the scenes.
Yeah, I was going to say, did it ever, when you look back at the early days, did it ever mess with your ego at all? Like, I mean, I just want to be totally honest because sure. I felt like we did have tension with that, even though, in the wedding industry specifically, it is maybe more female driven. So the work we were doing was more female driven, but even if it wasn't wedding industry related, because now we have several companies together, but just with me more being the leader of maybe the ideas and the strategy, and you are more, like you said, operations and administratively gifted, was there ever like an ego conflict?
Yeah, absolutely. Now there's feelings and moments of like, should I be doing more? Should I be doing something different? What does this look like for the long haul? But I think we've recognized that God gave us really complementary gifts, really complementary, moments where I'm feeling really clear and energized, and maybe you're in a moment where you feel down or frustrated, and vice versa. We've seen that for nearly 20 years now. So yeah, there's ups and downs for sure, but I think we've learned to see like what's the sustainable long picture of all of that in our marriage and our work and our owning a company together.
And what would you tell husbands that have a strong leader wife? How can they come alongside and support them, like you for me, but then also how can we, strong, opinionated women, support maybe the more behind the scenes person that doesn't get as much credibility even though they worked just as hard?
Yeah, I'll say it again. It's that fundamental concept that your marriage is 100-100, not 50-50, and you're all in, using your identified strengths. So if you don't know those, if you don't know what your clear strengths are, what you bring to the table for your family, for your company, like you got to figure that out early, or ASAP. But recognize those, and then I am married to a kick butt entrepreneur, and there's no stopping that. And so I made up my mind early on. We're just going to celebrate that. We're going to support that and stimulate that. And so in my head, again, it's when you win, we win, the company wins, our family wins. And so for some, they may be like, oh, well, I'm not achieving this or doing that or out in the forefront. But I've looked at it differently of just saying, I'm fully confident in the skills, the beautiful things that God has given me to do. I wear a lot of different hats and work with our different companies and other elements beyond here. But it's just having that, I think, clarity and confidence of celebrating, supporting, because we both win together. Another part I'd say for the really strong wives, leaders, company leaders, just recognize the moments when your spouse or your husband might need some time and space. Maybe they recharge. What's life-giving for you may not be the same that's life-giving for them. Be respectful of when they need time, they need space, they need other things that are like their happy place that help them recharge to do their part, within your company, within your partnership.
Well, and something I think we've had tension around is me not making sure I do identify, whether that's publicly or even privately, in our room at night, saying thank you for all the things that you did today to participate or to make that thing come to fruition. So it could be a public thank you and acknowledgement in front of my team, like, hey guys, just so you all know, Jordan did X, Y, and Z to make this happen. Publicly acknowledging you, and then also, like I said, privately as well, saying thank you for the time that you spent, or I know you had to do the extra mile, because I think we can be forgetful of what goes on behind the scene to make our dreams become a reality. And so it's important to express gratitude in those ways. Are you thinking of times?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, and it always means a lot. Yeah, and when it's not there, your bucket gets empty. But yeah, just one-on-one, in front of a group, it always means a lot to me. For people who say, oh, words of affirmation aren't really my thing, I still think everybody appreciates that in some form or another to some level.
Yeah. So can you think of a story or a time when, it didn't go so well for us, but what we learned from it? I'm not thinking of anything in particular. I'm just saying maybe a hurdle in our marriage working relationship where you're like, I remember that experience was really tough, and this is how we came around and through it, and how we're much better today.
Yeah, the first example that comes to mind is I've got a schedule of things I'm doing beyond our companies and other elements too, and then there's some times where there's just conflict and overlap, and so that's tough sometimes when there's an expectation on me to show up.
You mean I can be demanding?
There are some times, babe.
I can say, oh, you need to drop everything. I need you to do this for me right now.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I'm a big responsibility person. Love to do stuff well with excellence. We're really big with our children and our family. Like, we don't expect perfection of ourselves, of our family, of our team, but we do expect excellence, or to push ourselves to continually to be our best. So I feel that on the inside of, if I'm touching something, I want to do it well, or well enough. And so those moments where you want something 110% from me, but there's already the day was booked out or scheduled out, that's where it causes some tension. It gets stressful, gets hard, to manage that day to day sometimes.
Yeah, and then you're so nice about it all.
Really?
Yeah.
Give me some examples.
No, I mean you've been really accommodating for like you said, my team and you. I'm constantly coming up with ideas and saying, oh, we should do this right now today. I want to try it, and then I have to kind of rein myself in and remember that might not necessarily be the priority at the moment with all that everyone has going on. So I appreciate that. But
yeah, you bet.
I was gonna say, what would you say to someone maybe in a marriage situation, but they are business owners and wife is the forefront leader of the company? What would you say? Hey, here are my top 3 tips for the husbands and team around her.
Yeah, I'd say find the things and identify what really helps give her life, give her energy, and be supportive of those. I really try to proactively help, practically making breakfast. It's not always the thing you think about or how you're going to fuel your engine throughout the day. So it might be simple things like that of just setting up systems, processes, an assistant or someone to make sure they're partnered well with you. So you have great energy, you're sustained, helping her throughout that work day or that go moment. That's one element. On the other side, it's what is the kind of rest, the time and space, the decompression, the margin that strong leader needs once they're off. And it's difficult for entrepreneurs, right? It's like, okay, when am I ever off the clock? But setting those finish lines is something I've really been thinking about a lot lately. At the end of the day, at the end of the week, end of the month, even into the year, into the holiday season, or whatever works for that family schedule, and honoring those and creating an atmosphere to protect that lady's time and space to recharge. That's another element there. And I think just the words that are said. People say all kind of stuff or have their own opinion. Recently heard a friend say, everybody's going to give you their 2 cents, but at the end of the day, it's worth 2 cents. But like, what is the truth about you as a couple? What's the truth about you as, in some cases, co-leaders or partners in a business? And then you stick to that. You remind yourselves, you remind your family, you remind your team, and don't let these little chirpy things, come in and really dilute the truth about you and the power you have in working together, serving together. You got to really look at it. The fundamental perspective is that you're serving each other towards a bigger goal than each of you and yourselves.
Yeah, and something you've helped me with lately, I really appreciate. I'm working on some curriculum, and I've had to do some really blocked out, intensive writing, and it's not happening at home with our 4 kids, or is it happening here in our company? Because there's a lot of distractions. So I've really appreciated you saying, hey, I know you need that time. Let's find some time on the calendar. And I've even booked at a hotel so I can write for 48 hours straight, go in the morning of one morning, stay that whole day, write, and write the next day. And that has super helped me to just get away in my zone to make sure I can be as productive as I need to be. Mm-hmm. And then I think another thing we do that helps us is we really talk calendar. And I know not everybody likes to talk calendar, but we talk it at the beginning of the year before we make a plan for the year, put our big stuff in. We intentionally plan rest, like you're saying, right after a big event. So that's important. And then weekly, we have a little board meeting that we talk about. On Sunday nights, we pull out our calendar, which I'm still a paper calendar person, and he's got his laptop open, and we look at the week and we decide, hey, when does it matter that we, who's going to pick up the kids, who's making a meal on this day, when am I going to get this one project done, even down to when are we working out, because we're both trying to be very physically healthy. So we're trying to plug those days in and times in. And so saying, hey, I'm going to make sure I pick up the kids so that you can go to the gym, or I'm going to take this morning with children and you go to the gym in that morning. And I think that weekly strategy meeting has really helped us to not resent each other when different moments of oh, he gets to go do this. And no, there's no resenting, because we talked about it Sunday night and we made sure the plan was pretty equal as far as how much personal time we had, how much work time we had, and how much just just like the lay of the land, look who's carrying the weight of what responsibilities around our family and household looks like. So I think that's something that's been super helpful for us in not getting frustrated and avoiding tension, because it's inevitable, especially as married people, to feel the tension. So I think that has helped us avoid a lot of midweek stressors.
Right.
I don't know if you're going to say something.
Yeah, it creates two things. It creates clarity and it creates unity. And something you and I learned 5 years into marriage is that unity always beats out disunity. And when you clear that disunity out of the way, then you can be so much more productive, so much more in a zone of achieving good things together. Even if that's rest, even if that's strategic unwinding after a really busy push. So to me, that's the kicker of what it does on the Sunday nights or at the beginning of the year. Personally, it's a work in progress for us, right? And I love to do it before sunset on a Sunday evening so that we can really settle in, go into the Sunday evening like in a state of rest or unwinding. But yeah, there's sometimes we just have to do it or make it happen, on a Sunday evening. But clarity and unity make for a much better week, much better environment to be supportive of each other.
Yeah. And then last thing I think we should just share is that whole green light, red light principle.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, 5 years into marriage, I got to share this real quick because I was convicted because I realized I had invested more dollars into my F-150.
Yes, you had.
For oil changes and regular maintenance, but we hadn't really spent dollars on our marriage relationship of getting counseling, therapy, et cetera. So we invested in some priceless fundamental therapy, family of origin discussions, what are the lies we were telling ourselves? What is the truth we need to tell ourselves, grounded in biblical principles as well, too? It's priceless.
Which there's a great book that we need to just acknowledge that Tim and Ann Evans have written about this. So look up those authors, Tim and Ann Evans,
Real
because
Life Ministries.
This is their whole concept. But go ahead.
Yeah, and we say that because it was life-changing for us. It really was.
It was.
And it put tools in our tool belt for a couple of years that were just normal life, and which we'll share more in another time. Then we hit a really crisis situation with one of our children's health and all kind of things. In that, though, we learned this basic concept of the stoplight system. And so you can think red light, yellow light, and green light. And out of that, when you're making any level of decisions together, you really want to aim for unity in your decision-making versus disunity. And so if there's a big thing, maybe it's investing in something or buying a home or what neighborhood you want to live in. It could even be, school to which your child goes, or you fill in the blank.
Should we start a business?
Yeah, all these life things, right? Which are, by the way, better decided before 10 p.m., right, on a nightly basis. If you have a green light, but I still have a lot of questions, which that's very typical for us. You have big vision, big ideas.
I'm like green light all the time, baby. Green light. I got an idea.
And then I have a God-given gift, but I've had to refine it of anticipating challenges, anticipating obstacles, things that might cause trouble along the way, right? So let's say you have a green light, then I have a yellow light. The idea is we keep talking through that in a healthy, respectful way and saying, let's talk through, the pros and cons, the positives and negatives. What's the benefit? What's it going to cost us? However you want to put it. But then out of that, we've really tried to work to say, let's not make a big decision until we both have a green light. We also try to, pray, lean into it, inquire of the Lord, look beyond ourselves in our own, limited but growing knowledge, but it's still limited. And out of that, aim to get to that same spot of unity.
Well, I was going to say something that probably our listeners are considering is, could you use the yellow light or red light almost as a form of control? Yes, you could, which is where you have to be very mindful in this practice. You have to say, okay, I know you're a green light on this. I'm going to go really think about this and pray or whatever it might be to decide why my yellow or red light exists. Is it because I want to control that situation? Or is it truly because I have very honest concerns? Mm-hmm. So it's important because if someone doesn't have the right heart, they can use that principle and really cause like almost an always veto moment. I think you and I said, we're going to do this, but we're also very intentional about not being selfish in that process and saying like, okay, this is their idea. This is what they want to do. I don't want to get greedy or selfish in my desires or wanting to control. And I'm going to say, as I pray and inquire of the Lord, or really consider the options, if I'm yellow or red, can those move to green if it was me out of the way?
Yeah.
And so, I've had friends use this just even to buy a car or decide if they want more children. There's so many things, but it's really amazing when you think about how many decisions one of us was red lighted on. And then when we actually spent time away, we came back and we're like, we're sorry. We don't know why we were red lighted on that. I do feel green. I feel green too. And then we move forward. And also, we can't blame each other.
Yeah, that's the power of it. Yeah.
So I think about how when our son had cancer, we had a really big decision to make. We had to decide what protocol of chemotherapy he was going to be treated with. And that protocol would determine his outcome, essentially. And there were several options for us. There was a trial protocol that was going to be a shorter time frame, but a lot of new drugs. There was going to be a longer, more proven protocol, and then there was like another hospital with a whole different option. So we had to think through that and not just decide, okay, which protocol do we feel good about? We called smart people. We called our friends that were in the medical field and got a lot of advice. But essentially, at the end of the day, it was ultimately our decision. Mm-hmm. Like, no doctor was telling us you should do this or that. It was just like, these are all the options. Yeah. You choose.
One of the weightiest decisions we've had to make.
Right. And we knew that if one of us chose a protocol without the others having a green light and our child died, that we would probably not end our marriage well.
Yeah.
Because we would have the weight of, it's your fault he died because I wanted the other protocol. So we made a decision to kind of lock out all the other opinions. There were a lot of them. And we said, hey, we got to really pray about this, inquire of the Lord separately, you and I, and come back together. And we had a unity on our decision. And that to me was like, no matter what happens, all our eggs are in this basket. We literally put our faith in that decision, and we could not blame each other regardless of the outcome. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's the power of the stoplight model, is because there's a lot of tit for tat kind of thing with mm-hmm. marriage. It's like, well, if you wouldn't have bought that truck, I told you not to, and now you're having all these problems with it, versus, we both had an agreement that was the right thing. And we've done things like that before, where we've invested our money into something that
that's a real life example right now.
We invested in something and it didn't go so well for us. It was maybe a poor decision, but what's cool is that we had a unity on investing that. Go ahead.
Yeah. So now our unified approach is let's figure out the best way to move on beyond this. And we're not sitting here finger pointing and, backbiting about it. But I think we still have a unity of like, okay, didn't go as well as we hoped. Not the end of the world, but let's figure this out together.
Yeah, it was more like we are unified in how much it sucks. We're like, well, we just lost a lot of money. Well, that's a bummer, but it's nobody's fault. It's not your fault or my fault. We did that together. We messed up together. So now we're like, okay, pivot. Let's figure out how we can reinvest that money and what's left of it.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, thanks for tuning in and being on my show today, Jordan.
You bet.
This is the Something New show you can watch on YouTube or anywhere podcasts are located. If you like this episode, please hit like, leave a comment, subscribe, and tell your friends about it. We'd love to see you on Instagram at the Something New show. And we hope you guys have an awesome day. Bye-bye. Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe to the show, rate, review, and share with a friend. Also, follow the Something New show on Instagram and Facebook. If you want a fuller experience, watch the show on YouTube to help you create a life worth celebrating.